find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to a prime time edition of GTF, Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and I just want to let you know that tomorrow is the season finale of Draft on Tap with Danny Shimon and Neil Stopchinski. They'll go over all of the draft picks, all of the undrafted free agents they've been able to get tape on, and that's actually what we're going to do today. Greg Gabriel is going to pop onto the screen here in any second. There he is, and he is going to talk about undrafted free agents and also handle all of your questions. Greg, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Hey, I got to tell you, I was on WGN Sunday night with Jared. I mean, they taped it a little earlier. It was probably 2 minutes for all I know. I didn't see it. But they were supposed to plug this. Whether they did or not, who knows?
Jared Payton is a great guy. I have when he was doing a different show at one of the cable stations, I was a guest of his, and he was a sweetheart of a guy, and he's promised to come on very soon to talk to us on the Dan and Aldo show, because Dan Aguirre is a huge fan of Walter Payton. So we're going to get into it in about a month or so. But what about you? What have you been doing the last 48 hours since we last met?
I'm working on next year.
So you've already started scouting.
I've got probably somewhere between I haven't counted, but I'm going to say between 125 and 150 done. Off of last year. Now you're going to have to redo them once the season starts. But I'm getting paid to do this. It's for some people and they just keep sending me names, so I just keep doing it.
I love it.
I'll tell you, and it's people in the agent community. And I'll tell you what's interesting is that, even a year and a half ago, they were only interested in doing guys for the following year's draft, so to speak. That's totally changed now with NIL. I mean, I'm doing freshmen.
Wow.
And sometimes these guys don't play much, so you got to dig and dig and dig to get some stuff on. But it's interesting because then you can follow their development. But because of NIL, they can have agents to represent them getting different NIL deals. So it's profitable to the agent. I had a conversation with Rosenhaus last week, and he said, Greg, I'm recruiting them in high school now.
Oh my goodness!
and he said, "I got to." He said because they're going to get these. Some of these guys are getting big deals just to sign with some of these major colleges, and all this was legal 2 years ago. Not anymore.
It's incredible
for real now.
It's incredible. What are you drinking there? A Bud Light?
No. That's a Pepsi. I need a little caffeine. And I got water over here.
There you go. I didn't know you were.
My mouth gets real dry when I start talking, so I gotta.
Yeah, I didn't know you were a cola drinker.
Yeah. I don't drink coffee.
Yeah, well, I do.
I'll have a caramel frappuccino every once in a while, but that's cold and that's sweet, so. But I don't like regular coffee at all. Gross.
Yeah, I love it just black. No sugar, no milk, nothing. I just love the smell of that coffee bean and that taste.
Yeah, my dad was the same way.
Oh, so good.
My dad would get up and have, 2 cups of black coffee, and I said, oh, my God.
And he was raring to go all day long, huh?
Yeah.
You ever had a Red Bull?
Yeah, but I haven't had a Red Bull in a while.
Yeah.
I can tell you, first time I had a Red Bull was I was at Ron Rivera used to have this golf tournament when he was working here for the Bears, and to raise money for different Hispanic charities.
Okay. Cool.
So I played in it one year, and it was over at that course at the Marriott in Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
Okay, so right down the street from you, just about. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we're at the tee of one of the holes on the back nine, and one girl there had, she's working for Red Bull or whatever, something to do with Red Bull. And so she was giving everybody a bottle of Red Bull. And this was like when it was brand new stuff,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't know what I was drinking. I just chugged that sucker down.
Oh!
I was awake for a little while longer. But.
I was gonna say you probably played the fastest round of golf in your entire life after drinking that. Well, let's talk about these undrafted free agents. You have looked at about a half dozen of them, so we're going to cover those guys. But do you have a headline about these UDFAs? Is there one kind of major theme that you saw in the acquisition, the signing of these undrafted free agents, or do they all have their own individual story?
They each have their own individual story. I mean, I can't speak to how this group does their UDFAs.
Mm-hmm.
When I was there, I'm going to say up to half of anywhere between 10 and 15 of our 30 visits or potential UDFAs.
Okay.
Part of the reason was we wanted to get a medical on them. And so then we knew if they were clean medically. You lost my audio.
Hold on a second.
I can hear you.
This happened to me yesterday. Hold on. Very, very weird. Let me I think everybody else can hear you, but I don't think
I can hear me too. And I can hear you.
I don't think. Talk to me now, Greg.
Okay.
All right. That'll have to. Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay. So anyway, we bring in 10 to 15 before the draft as part of our 30 visits mainly to get the medical. We usually drafted at least one. Every year I was here, we took at least one non-combine guy, and every year there's 35 to 40 that get drafted. The Bears took 2 this year. The 2 7th-round picks are both non-combine guys. But, there's people we recruited going into the draft, and that was one of the things we did when we brought him in. I can't say what this group is doing because I don't know as far as that aspect if they go out and recruit people. We had them talk to the coach, the head coach, the position coach, etc. And we derived a plan for them, and so tried to sell them on the plan. Now, generally after the draft, no matter what you do, it's still money talks, and the signing bonus means everything, and it's the parameters. Now the signing bonus in the UDFA market, the whole structure of the contracts in the last 5-6 years is completely changed. It used to be, you'd start off. I mean, this is going back years, and even when I was working with the Bears, you could give guys $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, whatever. That'd be their signing bonus. You might give 1 or 2 guys $10,000. You tried to keep it at a minimum. Cliff would give us a budget. We'd have X amount of dollars to spend on signing bonus. And once that money was gone, we could sign guys, but they weren't getting the signing bonus because all that money comes out of your rookie pool that gets assigned by the league. Well, The league has changed that now, and there's a given figure to every team that they can use for signing bonus. And it's well into the hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but 100,000, like 150,000, something like that. A lot of money. that they can use. It comes out of the rookie pool, is figured as part of the rookie pool, that they use for the undrafted free agents. But not only that, what the agents have done is there's going to be a few guys with each team that have partially guaranteed contracts. And what that means is, let's say, and I don't know what the rookie minimum is now. It's up close to around $900,000. And they might guarantee $250,000 or $300,000 of that rookie minimum. And generally what that means that guy, you cut the guy, he's still getting that money. And that's going to hit you on the cap on the backside. But generally speaking, guys with guaranteed money like that, they are going to end up on your practice squad, because then there's if you put them on the practice squad, there's an offset on the guarantee.
Yeah. So budgeting for these undrafted free agents, it's very important how you allocate those dollars, right?
Right. And it's going to change. I've seen some things where guys got, like a $40,000 signing bonus and $250,000 to $300,000 guaranteed in the first year. And so if you cut that guy, that's a lot of money you're just throwing away. So you better bring them back to the practice squad.
Yeah.
Because then you're recouping, you're getting something back for that guarantee, because that's, God, I don't know what the practice squad money is now. It's up probably close to $9,000 a week over the course of 18 weeks. So it's a pretty good chunk of change for a 22-year-old or whatever. Exactly. So, and by the way, practice squad money, that's the minimum. You can give a guy a regular rookie or veteran salary if you want. There's no limit on the upside. There is a limit on the minimum.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right. Well, let's talk about some of these UDFAs. Is there any particular order you want to name a name, and then I'll
I don't have all the first names right in front of me, but Huey, big tackle from Pitt.
Oh, people in the chat are already talking about Gabe Huey.
Oh, he's got a good first name.
Yeah.
This guy's a good player. And now the deal with him is he's missed a lot of time with injuries. What the injuries are, I don't know. But he only played like 6 or 7 games this year. He missed time in 21. He's got to get by, unless they brought him in early, and I didn't see his name on the 30 visit thing, and I don't think he was at the combine. Then, he's still got to get by the medical for that signing to be official. But this guy will challenge for a roster spot. No question. He's athletic enough to play on the left side, but he's a right tackle. He's big. He's nasty. Did I write down the measurables? No, I didn't write down the measurables. He did not run on the pro day. I had that. But he did all the other stuff. Very good pass blocker, good run blocker. He gets after people. He looks to finish. Sets a tone. Kind of like Darnell Wright, in that he's just a nasty son of a bitch. So I think he's going to give Larry Borum a run for his money for that third tackle position. Now, Larry Borum, if you have to, you can play him on the left side to get you out of a game. This guy has the athleticism to do that. He also can play inside at guard. So I see some position flexibility with him. It'll be interesting what he does, but let's get to the first part first, and that's he's got to get through the medical first. And by the way, that'll be, if not tomorrow, Friday morning. These guys start coming in tomorrow. They will come in tomorrow. And usually they have the medical set for, it used to be when I was there, and I know for when Ryan Pace was there, Thursday night they do the medicals after they're all there, and then they hit the field on Friday. So I would think by tomorrow night you're going to know if he's going to get by a medical, but good player.
Yeah, I found this little piece of video of him talking after his pro day. He was asked, What do you think you showed scouts out there?
I think might not be in the testing areas, but just my natural flexibility and like movement ability as an lineman. I think that's my natural best ability.
So he admits that his testing numbers aren't the greatest, but that he has natural flexibility and all of those traits that you've pointed out for what the Bears desire out of their offensive linemen. He might have in terms of getting downfield, hitting a moving target, being flexible, having some agility. So he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on.
Well, one thing, when I'm doing offensive linemen, one of the first things I look for is their ability to stay on their feet. And offensive linemen can't play on the ground. Okay, doesn't work that way. And if you watch good pro linemen, they're never on the ground. That's why I didn't like the Wisconsin center. I don't care where he went in the draft. I watched one game where he was on the ground 15 frickin' times. Another game when he was on the ground 8 times. You can go through a whole season of a good lineman, and he's not on the ground 3 times. It just doesn't happen. This guy stays on his feet. He's got good balance. He works well through trash. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes it can be when you see guys on the ground, it could be a balance thing, could be lower body strength, or it could be their waist benders. They overextend, lose balance, variety of different reasons. But I just call them groundhogs, and I don't like them. But, so if somebody else wants to like them, fine. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to ever take a groundhog.
Yeah. Being on the ground, or when you're watching tape and they're turned around and watching the guy that we're supposed to block is in the backfield behind them, not a good sign.
No. So, okay, next guy. Tyson, I guess you say his name, Badgett, the quarterback from Shepherd.
Yes.
Shepherd's in West Virginia. It's a D2 school, so he's playing at a real low level of comp. He's got good size. Getsy coached him at the Senior Bowl. I don't see a great arm from the tape I looked at. He's got a good arm, but he doesn't really drive the ball the way I'd like to see the ball being driven. If you're playing in a dome or something, it's not going to matter, even in the South. But when you get up here, you're going to get away with it early in the year. But when the wind starts flying in the later part of the year and it gets cold, you better be able to drive the ball, and you got to throw a tight ball. Now, for the most part, he does throw a tight ball. I just don't see, any kind of rocket, so to speak. Has good accuracy. Obviously, he's playing D2 ball, so it's going to be a huge jump for him to the NFL. At best, right now this year, I see him as a practice squad guy, which will be interesting because your practice squad quarterback is generally your third. Mm-hmm. So some teams, more and more teams are trying to keep 3 quarterbacks on the 53. And you can move guys back and forth. Peterman got brought up a couple times last year, had to play some at the end of the year. So if in fact he's good enough to be the 3, does that mean Peterman's out, or are they going to keep 4 quarterbacks? And that'll play out in camp as far as how quickly he picks up things, how he looks in the preseason. And he'll get some time in the preseason, I would imagine, and then go from there. But interesting guy. I'm not in love with him, but a good free agent.
There's an interesting story about him. His father is a world champion at arm wrestling, and he was at the combine, and he was interviewed. He became a media darling, and his son, got all this attention because of the relationship that they have and how his father coaches him and pushes him to do better and stuff. So he's got an interesting character, an interesting sports family. He's going to be an interesting guy to follow in camp, but it'll be even more interesting to see what Andrew, what's his name, Janako, the quarterback's coach of the team, can do with this young guy and whether he can help him get some more velocity out of those throws.
Yeah, going from D2 to the NFL, that's a big jump. Now that's like you're going up like 3 levels of comp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bush Hog says he believes 3 quarterbacks make the roster, besides, of course, Justin, Peterman, and Walker and Peterman or Badgett won't make it, he says. And I agree with that. It's going to be a battle.
One of them's going to be the third.
Right. One of them will be the third. Yes.
One's going to be the third. So,
yeah.
And I'll tell you what, people might not like it. I like Peterman. I've always liked him. What happened to Peterman and he gets killed for it is, first of all, I liked him when he was at Pitt. It's a pretty damn good quarterback there.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets into a game where he's got to start in Buffalo because of injuries. He gets into a game, and the first pass he throws, receiver drops the ball, the ball doesn't hit the ground. It goes behind him.
Okay.
Gets picked.
No.
Then a couple minutes later throws another one. The exact same thing. He ends up throwing 3 picks in that game, 2 of which were not his fault. It was on the receiver. And it just killed his confidence. And everything went downhill from there. You know, when he went to the Raiders, and Greg Olson was his quarterback coach, and Greg used to be here. He was on one of Lovey's early staffs. And or it might have been Dick's staff, but he was here during that time. I think he was here for part of Lovey and for Dick, but he's a good quarterback coach. He's gone on to be a pretty good offensive coordinator or quarterback coach in the league. He's been in the league, for a long time. But Greg did a really good job with Peterman. You can get a lot worse than Nate Peterman as your third quarterback. He's played a lot of football games. He's a pretty smart guy. People remember what happened to him his rookie year or second year that he had to play, and so they crucified the guy. He's not anywhere near that same player right now.
I gotta tell you, you have a different opinion of Peter.
No, that's fine.
I mean, I like the young man. I was at the Senior Bowl when he played at the Senior Bowl, but he just never showed me anything that tells me he's an NFL quality quarterback. Now, kudos to him.
He's not a starter. I'm
right.
not going to say he's a starter.
Yeah, I get you. Kudos to him that he's lasted in the NFL now. What is it, 5 or 6 seasons? And so,
more than that now.
Yeah, so he's definitely got some talent to be on roster after roster. But you're right, he's not a starter. We shouldn't expect him to be a starter, but he's a good camp body. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's move on. Who else you got here?
Okay, when I wrote this down, I might not have written the name right. Is it Baskerville or Barkerville from?
No, it's Baskerville. It's Mike Baskerville. Yeah,
Hounds of Baskerville. Linebacker from LSU. Good player, good instincts, makes a lot of plays. Does not have the measurables to play in this scheme or to make it in the National Football League. I'd be really surprised if he made it. He was 6'003, 224, and 4'82. And in today's game, you're looking for guys in the 4.5s and 4.6s to play the linebacker position. If you're a 4.8 guy, you're too slow. And that's what he is. Now, he plays faster than that. And like I said, he's a good player at LSU. I think he was their leading tackler or second leading tackler. Got pretty good instincts, but 4.8 is 4.8. And these guys are real big on tricks. That's why he didn't get drafted. This guy just isn't fast enough. He's going to work. Could he be a practice squad guy? Yeah, very well could be, depending on what he does in the preseason. But to be on your squad, at 4.8, I would think that right now there's probably about 7-8 guys in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a little video on him. He plays with a nasty disposition. He's got a lot of heart, but yeah, he does seem like a camp body, and it's unlikely he will be playing in the NFL in 2023. But we'll keep an eye on him like we will all these other guys. Who's next on your list?
Jalen Harris, the edge from Arizona.
Okay.
Now, this guy's got the measurables. 6'0", 257. He's got long arms, ran a 4.7. Pretty good athlete.
Mm-hmm.
The knock I have on him, and he had, I think, 4.5 sacks. And he was the guy, remember going back when we did for the Patreon channel, we're talking about Mock, and I said there's 2 games where he got driven back on bull rushes. One was the game was Arizona, the other was the FCS championship game against South Dakota State. Well, this is the guy that knocked him into the quarterback a couple times against Arizona. So he's got that. What he doesn't have is he's not very instinctive. He's slow to find the ball. And he doesn't make, like when I say slow to find the ball could be going one direction and he's going the other. So, that part's a concern. He's got some tricks. He's got to get stronger. He only did 18 reps on the bench. That's not NFL quality for a defensive lineman. So he's got to get stronger. He's a good effort guy. There's no question about that. He is athletic. Another guy that if he shows enough in camp, he could be on the practice squad. Right now would be by default because they don't have any edges. I still think that, that they're going to sign 1 or 2 veterans shortly. Just, win shortly. Tomorrow or a month from now. There's only like 3 that are worth a darn, in my opinion, on the market. And all of them are still there, and they're all probably looking for pretty darn good money. And that's why they haven't signed yet, because they've been making good money in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And if you notice, since the draft, just since starting Monday, all of a sudden that lull in veteran free agency has changed. There's been a couple guys signed every day.
Yeah, indeed.
And part of it is they don't count against the comp formula. That's over with. That ended Monday afternoon. And the other part is, you want to wait and see what you get in the draft, and then you know what your needs are. And that works the same way with the player. The player doesn't want to go somewhere, sign a 1-year contract, and find out 2 guys got drafted high at his position. So but I would think if you're an edge on the street, you'd be calling the Bears. Hey, I'm here. You need me?
Yeah, exactly. Here, that's an interesting thing that you mentioned about signing these veterans, and they may not their salary won't be part of the salary cap computation. So now for the next,
they're part of the salary cap computation. They're not part of the comp.
Gotcha.
As far as when you get comp picks for UDFAs,
gotcha.
That's over.
Gotcha. Now, the Bears can go over the salary cap for a while because they've got to build a 90-man roster for training camp, right? And only
it's your first 51 players.
51 players. That's what counts.
It's the 51 highest salary players that count for the camp. For the cap.
Gotcha. All right, that makes sense. All right, who do you got next, amigo?
I'm going to bore people because I don't like some of these guys. Lorenz Metz from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Now this is a big dude.
He is huge.
6'9", 315, ran a 5.28, got long arms, 34-inch arms, did 26 reps. He's from Germany. But the problem is he's just doesn't move that well. He ran 5.2. He doesn't play 5.2. He plays 5'5". He's just so tall that he doesn't have the quickness and the suddenness that you really need in the NFL.
Right.
Again, there could be some developmental there when you see him in camp. He is a tough kid. He is strong. I think his lower body's got to get stronger. His upper body's pretty strong. Interesting. And I'm going off topic here a little bit.
Okay.
According to a couple of reports today, the Bears game in Europe is in Germany this year.
Oh.
Okay, in Munich against the Chiefs. Now that has been. Now let me see if you remember, because I don't remember. One of the Bears draft picks was announced from a European city. I don't remember if it was an English city or a German city. But generally speaking, It's the city you're playing in.
Yeah. Maybe somebody in the chat room knows because I missed
don't
that.
remember. I mean, I got the draft on tape, so I could go back and look. But you got to go back and watch hours and hours of coverage to do that. But
that's going to be a regular season game. So obviously,
if it is, the games in Munich are the 12th and the 19th of November.
Okay.
So they're a little later in the year. Generally speaking, almost 100% of the time, really, you get your bye week the week after that European trip.
Gotcha.
So their bye would be, you're going to be 9 games into the season, 10 games into the season when you're going to get your bye, if in fact that's factual stuff.
Okay. Now, what's interesting about this prospect, what I read about him, where is he again? Lawrence Metz, is that his coaching staff was in love with him because they claimed that he was very, very coachable, came in every day wanting to learn more about the sport. Clearly, playing in Germany, he didn't have the same access to pro football or any kind of football that we do here in the States. He was just thirsty for knowledge, and he would do whatever the coaches asked. And so he probably is going to win some admirers in camp, but his play probably won't be part of that argument.
Generally speaking, if they see something, generally speaking, you're going to try to keep that guy in the practice squad. If because he's a big guy. He's got some natural traits. He's got length. He is aggressive. So if they see something, you're going to keep, for the most part, you keep 4 offensive linemen on the practice squad. So it'll be, again, what he does in camp is going to show. I got one other story, though, because if, in fact, the Bears do play in Germany. When I was with the Giants, we played a preseason game in Berlin in 1994. I did not go. That was the year I got divorced. I got divorced like in May, and this trip was like first week August. So, I wasn't going to go because you could bring the Giants were going to pay to bring your family and everything. So, I mean, it would have been a great trip. The game was in Berlin, but I heard all the stories. So, and you might remember this name because you're local. One of our scouts, old-time scout, was a coach, was an old Chicago Bear and a great Chicago Bear, but we're talking way back. Ken Cavanaugh. Do you remember that name?
Oh, yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Okay. Ken he was a wide receiver. Back in those days, they called him split ends. And he's from Arkansas, went to the university. He's from Louisiana, went to the University of Arkansas. World War II, he was a B-17 pilot.
Ooh.
Flew the full 25 mission run before he got sent back home to the States. So they're in some beer garden in Berlin, and having fun. It was all the scouts. And Kenny stands up and he goes, the last time I was in this city, I was way up there bombing the freaking shit out of this place. just a fine story. So I tell you, when you got a couple pops in Kenny, then he started talking about the old days. I mean, no social media back then, and these guys were nuts. The stuff they used to do. He played for Hallis, and these guys would go out the night before and get totally hammered, and then still play a game on Sunday. And the stories that they would tell. I mean, to keep you up all night, he could go on and on and on. And he had that real heavy Southern Louisiana accent.
How about that?
He was a great storyteller.
How about that? Great story. You're a pretty good storyteller too, Greg. And I want to remind people that they should look at Greg's stories that he writes at Windy City Gridiron. Let's see if I got that I can put it up on the screen. There it is. Greg's article is at WindyCityGridiron.com. Who do you got next on your list there, amigo?
Who do we got next here? Bobby Haskins from USC.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Another big guy, 6'5", 297. Only was at USC this past fall. Was at Virginia before that. He wasn't a full-time starter at Virginia. And he wasn't a full-time starter at USC. He only started a few games that I saw. Mostly a backup at left tackle. He doesn't do anything for me. I think he's a camp guy, and that's it. And if it was me, he'd be like, if there's other guys I like, he'd be the first guy to go. But from what I saw, did nothing for me.
Greg, when you look at these players, these undrafted free agents, and you're trying to fill out the 90-man roster, do you get to a point where you say, all right, well, there really isn't anyone out there that we think is capable of making this team or is a developmental project, but we need camp bodies. And so a guy like maybe Haskins or player X, whoever he is, we want to bring him in because he's a guy who will do whatever we ask, and we're going to ask a lot of them in practice. Okay,
it's a good question, and I got your answer. Because not only are there's only like a dozen signed guys, maybe 13 or something. Yeah. And there's a bunch of guys coming in on tryout basis. There could very well be a tryout guy that totally outplays this guy over the weekend. And if that's the case, they'll sign the tryout guy and cut this guy. It's happened before. It happens all around the league that, you say, yeah, well, we made a mistake on that one. We'll cut our losses right now. And hopefully, they only gave him $1,500,
Right.
But there's a bunch of tryout guys, offensive linemen coming in this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see, how Simo likes these guys, and then if he wants to let one go and bring in, and sign one of the guys that was there on a tryout basis.
Yeah, I've seen many times after a day of OTAs, a player, or two gets dropped, and obviously, he probably walked in not well conditioned, and the Bears says, "Let's get somebody else in here, huh?"
Well, it might not be. It might be that he just can't do what you want him to do. To play the position.
Yeah.
Let's move on because that guy did nothing for me. So watch, he'll be on the 53. But this guy, after Huey, this guy is the next guy that's got a legitimate chance to make the club.
Okay.
Thyrick Pitts from Delaware, wide receiver.
Yeah, he's got some size, huh?
6'0", 202, 4.45, 39-inch vertical, 10.7 long jump. This guy's a trait guy and a productive trait guy. Now, I didn't have the stats from last year, but, at the FCS level, going back to COVID, they didn't play in the fall of 2020. So they played a very shortened season in the spring instead of having spring football. And then they played again in the fall. So in that combined season, 21 spring, 21 fall, he had 72 receptions, 1,120 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Not all bad. He can run, but I don't see 4.45 speed on tape. He looks closer to a 4.50 guy, but he's strong. He'll go up and get it. He's going to need work on his routes, which is typical. I mean, and part of it is, the offense he played in Delaware. He did not have a strong arm quarterback. You put this guy at a D1 school or Power 5 school, a lot of that stuff would have been cleaned up. He's very capable of playing that. But this guy is got talent. There's no question about it. So I would suspect he's going to challenge for a spot on the roster. And if he's got the toughness to play special teams, he may damn well make the roster.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I have not seen any of his highlights or any of his tapes, so I'll be looking for that. And we'll be keeping an eye on Thyrick Pitts. All right, who do you got next, amigo?
Okay, Dejan Warner, a corner from Jackson State. I saw some stuff people thought he was going to challenge to make the club, and then I saw his measurables, and I go, no, he's not. He's 5'10", 7, 182. He ran 4.58 and 4.63 at his pro day. So like below average speed, not anywhere near fast enough. His change of direction drills, the agility shuttles, were 4.52 and 7.24, well below the norm. And then the final thing was his alligator arms are 29 and 7/8. And for a team that just craves length. Good player at Jackson State. But that Jackson State is low-level FCS.
Right.
And so he's got to make a huge jump, and I just don't see him having the physical traits to be able to play in the National Football League. Unless he had a bad day on his pro day and has a lot more speed than that 4.6 speed. To me, he's an XFL player. And there's nothing wrong with that. And by the way, XFL, my former team, the DC Commanders, are in the championship game. Or DC Commanders are in the championship game this weekend.
Nice. Do some of the players that you helped scout are still on the roster?
No, nothing's the same.
Really? Wow.
Nothing is the same. In fact, they said the league sent me last week because I was Doug Whaley. One of the only constants is Doug Whaley was with the league. He was the assistant commissioner, and now he's the league director of player personnel. So he has actually a lesser title, probably doing the same things. I sent Doug a text. I said, Doug, they changed all their uniforms. We had, I think Russell was the manufacturer that made our uniforms in 2020. And everything was new this year. They're all Under Armour. So I said, those things were used for 5 games. And then the league had to fold because of COVID. I go, what the hell happened to them? He goes, we got them. You want a couple? And I said, yeah.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I got a home. I got a home and away jersey from the Defenders from the 20. I just got them on Thursday.
Yeah, that's a historic season. Canceled because of the pandemic. Unbelievable.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, getting back
to sad is I tell you what, we were way above all projections. That's the sad part.
Yes,
Attendance wise, everything. We were way above, and we were talking to people unofficially. With the NFL about trying to set up some sort of deal where we could get some players from them the next year, like practice squad type guys that needed play time.
Exactly.
And the way it worked, because of when our season was, their seasons, except for the playoff teams, their season was over, and now there's only 2 teams playing. They can, walk out of that and walk into the off-season program now of a NFL club, where the USFL, they just started their season. They're only a couple of weeks in, and so I think that just from a time frame, those guys are penalized.
Yeah, I agree with
the
that.
USFL guys are penalized.
Yeah, I agree with that. Getting back just for a second regarding Dejan Warren, nicknamed Nugget, because a lot of people in the chat room are talking about, that Deion Sanders really, really was pushing for this guy to get drafted and really liked to play. Does that mean anything to scouts when the coach is pounding the table saying this guy could be drafted?
No. I mean, he's standing up for his players like he should.
Yeah.
But Deion ran a 4.3. This guy runs a 4.6.
Deion could probably still beat him in a race.
Deion lost part of his foot. I don't know about that.
That's right.
But he just corner, wide receiver are stopwatch driven positions.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for this guy, the stopwatch didn't work in his favor.
No, it certainly didn't. All right, who's next on your list?
No, that was all I did. That was all I did of the
okay.
UDFAs.
So we got them all. Those are all.
I mean, there's more here. I just haven't had a chance to get into them. And we'll hear. The practices, I believe, are open to the media, so we'll hear who jumps out, who doesn't jump out.
Let me ask you a process question. So now, after the scouts and the scouting director have gotten a good amount of sleep, what are they doing now?
Next year,
they're already starting.
Oh, wow. I think I've said this before. The day after the draft, I'd be sitting in my office and Jerry walking, "Hey, big dog, who are you doing?" Come on, Jerry. It's the day after the draft. I know, but you've got to get a heads up on this stuff, But Jerry was a filmaholic, and you got to be. I mean, you don't belong in the business if you're not going to be. And Jerry was a grinder. He was the epitome of being a grinder. I think Ryan Poles is a grinder. And so you just keep working and working and working, and it becomes part of your daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we never had days off when I was there from the start of the season until the draft. I mean, we work Saturdays, we work Sundays in the office. I mean, the scouts are where they live. They're all over the country. But we are always working. Now, you might only work a half a day on a Sunday, but you worked every Sunday, even during, this time of the year.
All right, let's take on a few of these questions that we've received. Dented Fender asked this question about that RAS system, relative athletic scoring, and he asked, "Does polls really look at those RAS scores, or is it just a coincidence?" Now, my response to him was that a lot of NFL teams have their own type of athletic scoring or measurement system. I don't think Ryan Poles relies on Kent Platty's RAS scores. Do you?
That part I couldn't tell you. What that does, and I'm not going to say it's not good, because it's just it's an athletic metric.
Right. It's a tool.
Based on, so, I mean, what's it mean in the total scheme of things? Very little.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's good football players that have a low RAS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there's some guys with a real high RAS that can't play worth a damn.
Yep.
It's pure athleticism. So, you can't put a lot of stock into it, but you look at it to say, okay, this guy meets the athletic criteria that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know a lot of fans have been critical of Poles. Not a lot of fans, but some fans have been critical of Poles because they're saying he was focused too much on athletic traits and not production on the field. And actually, I think we talked about this on Monday. Your response was, that there's a lot of variables. I'm paraphrasing what you said, but there's a lot of variables to making these selections and overlooking somebody's great productivity in one area and selecting a guy who's athletic, who may not have had the type of coaching that would have helped him, like Zach Pickens mentioned. So,
right. No, there's a lot. What were they being asked to do? What were they being taught?
Mm-hmm.
What was their job within that scheme?
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're looking at tape, you don't have the answer to that.
Right.
And what makes it difficult for people like myself when I'm looking at tape is I don't have the answers to that either, because I'm not making a school call.
Yeah.
When you go into a school call, now you're getting there at 7:00 in the morning, and you're watching tape. Now, watching tape, you don't have to watch tape at schools anymore, but you want to go to a school to see practice and talk to coaches. And the reason why I say you don't have to watch tape is you have the games, like Saturday's games you have on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
They're all been downloaded into, for the whole country, been downloaded into your system. And you've got your laptop with you or your Surface or whatever, and you can sit, as long as you've got internet access, you can watch it wherever you're at. So watching tape, where it used to be, you had to use that time at the school to study tape.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a lot easier for the scouts. But when they do go to the school, they are meeting with coaches, they are meeting with the trainer, the support staff, the strength coach. There's a pro liaison, might meet with the academic counselor, people on the periphery, because you want to find out as much about the player as you can. But when you're talking to the coach, you might talk to the coordinator or the position coach. You're trying to find out exactly what he's being asked to do.
Right. That's
so then you can, and then if you see a play, okay, like let's take, for instance, Tyreek Stevenson, and he got beat pretty bad in that North Carolina game. If I was making a school call, that's like the first thing that comes out of my mouth when I talk to the DB coach. What happened in the North Carolina game and why? Okay, so if he can answer that, so I got a sour taste in my mouth from that one game, even though all the rest of the stuff was really good. That one scared me a little bit, but part of it is because I don't have the answers.
Right.
But if I could sit down for a half hour with the defensive back coach or the defensive coordinator, I'd get all the answers.
Mm-hmm. That's and that's part of the scout's job, is this kind of interrogation, being in the interrogation business, being a detective. I love this.
Who was the running back that came from Miami, played a gazillion years, just retired like 2 years ago, played for the Colts and
come on, chat room, help me out. Running back from University of Miami. Colts.
I mean, he played 15 years at least, and had a gazillion yards. But anyway,
I know you're talking about. Didn't he play for Frank Gore? Frank Gore.
Okay.
I
made a school call in August of his final year, and I was there with a guy from the Giants, and who's also a good friend of mine. And so after practice, we were up in the running back coach's office, and it was during, preseason camp, and this guy just happened to be the pro liaison too, and Joe and I were the only two scouts that were there that particular day in August. So this guy had some time for us. So we're asking about Gore, and he says, he's got a reading problem. He's not going to test well, but he will study and work his ass off.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think he came back with a Wonderlic score, single-digit Wonderlic score, which for a lot of people would, really turn you off to the player or whatever. Right. But if you got a reading problem or a reading comprehension problem, you're going to score poorly on the Wonderlic. Right. And it's like the other stuff. You got to know what the background is.
Mm-hmm.
So he's telling us that Frank, he said, I've never had a player that was more into learning and doing it right and studying and doing whatever it took to learn. He said, I'll tell you a story. He said, he's a freshman and he's struggling with the learning part. But we just said, hey, just all your spare time, just study. And he said, so here it is. He goes, it's late, like early on a Friday morning, like 2 a.m. He said, my phone rings. It's Frank Gore. Frank, what the hell are you calling me for at 2 a.m? He said, Coach, I just wanted to tell you I got it. I got it.
I love it.
And,
That's great.
but that told you a lot about Frank Gore. And that's why he played 15, 16 years in the league. Because
Yeah,
he got it.
that's amazing. I love this question from Dented Fender. He asks, is it easy to transition from a defensive end to a 3-tech?
If you got the right, no, it's not that hard. In fact, you see it happening a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If the guy's got the size.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If he doesn't have the physical traits to do it, then he just can't make the transition. But no, it's not that hard.
So, from a weight standpoint, what's do you consider the bare minimum for a 3-tech? 280, 285?
Well, I go back to some like Tommy Harris. Tommy Harris was 290 at the combine. He played between 285 and 290 most of his career with us. But he was 6'2.5" and real low body fat. I mean, Tommy Harris was probably like a 13% body fat. That guy was put together now. And 13% on a big guy is a very low percentage of body fat. Guys like Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp was never more than 290 pounds. He's also only, a little over 6 feet tall. And Booger McFarland was about 295. And then go back to one of the greatest of all time. Remember John Randall? He was the original 3-tech. He's about 275, 280. They got to be disruptors. But now, Buckner, DeForest Buckner with the Colts, who Ballard traded for Flus's second year there, I think. He was 295, but he's also 6'6.5", maybe 6'7", with a high degree of athleticism. These guys they just drafted. First Tank Johnson was another guy, just a hair under. He was like 6'2 3/4. Combine, he was about 302. Played between 295 and 300 for us, but he ran 4.7 at 295. He was quick. Tommy Harris ran 4.68. So you got to be athletic and explosive. And these guys they drafted last week are a little bit bigger than we were taking. We talked about this Monday, but they're just not quite the equal of Tank and Tommy, but pretty damn close.
Okay.
But they got a little more girth to them. Pickens was only 291 at the combine, but he played at 300 during the season. And Paul said after, that presser, I don't know if it was after day 2 or day 3, but he said that, he'll probably be somewhere in between for us because, he described, what Jimmy Arthur does as far as lean weight, muscle mass, etc. Same thing I say, he just used different words. So he when it's all said and done, he's going to be a 295 to 300 pound player with a high degree of athleticism. So, but now Keon White is 6'5" and he weighed 285 and he's got low body fat. You could probably put 5-6 pounds on him. To me, he's an ideal 3. Because of the athleticism, the natural size, the explosiveness that he has. But he also, he's a type, he's got scheme versatility, and that he could be a 3 in this scheme. He could be a left end in this scheme, but he could be a 5 technique in another scheme. There's some guys who are stuck to a scheme. Could Tommy Harris have played a 5 technique in a 3-man front? Well, he could have, but he probably wasn't going to be the player that he was here. So, part of it is being the right player for the right scheme.
Yeah. This is an interesting comment from Troy. He says, we're a 3 tech and a center from winning the division. Who needs edge rushers? When did that become a position? I swear, nobody called Lawrence Taylor an edge or Richard Dent.
Well,
What
it's
happened in the
because
evolution there?
what happened to it is because right now the way the game's played, you're playing a majority of the time in sub, and so your 3-4 outside linebackers are pass rushers in sub, but they're outside linebackers in base. So what are they? They're edge.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing on the edge. So that they just changed the name, that's all. To really be all inclusive for 4-3 defensive ends and 3-4 outside linebackers. And if you notice during the draft, some of these guys like BJ Ojolari and a couple other guys, they were quote drafted as linebackers.
Right.
It's who took them and what's their scheme.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the end, they're freaking pass rushers.
Yeah, exactly. Renewable asks, is there a staff focused on other teams' caps and who they will possibly be cutting or possibly need to trade to comply with the salary cap? Good question.
Well, everybody has to be under the cap now. You had to be under the cap the first day of the league year, which was back in March when free agency started. Yeah, that's part of pro scouting and the people that run the salary cap is, and part of it's looking at what they draft. And is there somebody that could be vulnerable because they're making X amount of dollars or too much money? In reality, you want to trade for him because then you're picking up that contract that might be too high.
Right.
And he's going to get cut. And if he's a veteran that gets cut, then the contract, if he's a vested veteran, meaning he's got 4 years in the league, he becomes a free agent the minute he gets cut.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't go through waivers. And so now that contract's null and void, and you start from scratch and you do a new contract with him.
Yeah, I think the recent example of Khalil Mack is sort of an example of that, is that Ryan Pace at the time of the acquisition said that they have been thinking about perhaps acquiring Mack because they knew of his situation with the Raiders. They knew that he was in a contract problem and that the Raiders were having salary cap challenges. And so they were kind of keeping an eye on that situation for months before the trade.
Yeah, well, he wanted out of Oakland too.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, there was a couple different things with that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're always aware of it, but you want to get them at your cost, not their cost.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so you got to look at it that way. I think that's why guys like Floyd and Ngakoue are still out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're still looking for more than what teams are willing to pay them.
Right.
And sooner or later, you're going to get further along into the off season, and they're going to want to work, and they're going to say, "Okay, I'll take a 1-year deal at your number," or maybe you can find something in between. And because not only do they want to work, they got to work. I mean, either way, they're going to get millions.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like. Like in Floyd's case, he was making like $13 million a year. He's not going to make $13 million now.
No.
He might make $6 million. Whoop!
Right.
I lost you there.
Oh.
Are we on there? Because I lost you here.
I don't see you. I can hear you.
Let me see what happened here. There we go. Because I got my phone. Yeah, I got my phone going here instead of my laptop. So. It's negotiation.
Exactly.
And you got to you can't panic, but you've got to have a good relationship with the agent because, and hope that the agent's going to be fair with you, especially if it's a guy you really want, and say, hey, and now, he's going to lie to you a little because he's trying to get as much money as he can for his client. But you got to say, hey, Baltimore's willing to cough up $6 million.
Yeah.
Can you match that? Because we know your situation is the same.
Right.
So then you're in your head, you're probably going, well, it's really probably 5.5. But that's the agent doing his job.
Got a question here. I think we kind of addressed either last show or a couple of shows ago. Do you think there's anyone on the team right now that has trade value and players that you think might be moved or should be moved? And if so, why?
Right now, no. I think they're piecing together the team they want to piece together.
Right.
The guys they didn't want aren't here.
Right.
They've done that. They've got plenty of money, so it's not like they're up against the cap and they got to cut somebody. So what happens with fans, and I hate like criticizing fans because they're the whole reason we play, but at the same time, they're not realistic. And like you draft the wide receiver Tyler Scott from Cincinnati, or you draft 2 corners, so right away Johnson's on the trade market. It doesn't mean that. What's wrong with having a bunch of good corners in your corner room?
Exactly. You need that.
It's called depth.
Exactly.
And things will take care. That doesn't mean you're going to get rid of somebody. The one thing that drives me nuts is everybody's convinced they don't have a center. That's from the fans. Go over to Hallis Hall, 1920 football drive. They're convinced they got 2 centers.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see them draft one? No. Did they sign one? No.
No. And you have been saying that for weeks,
Right.
So it the idea, I think you mentioned, with the idea of having a rookie center with a rookie right tackle and a second-year left tackle, probably not a good idea.
And really, for all intents and purposes, Jenkins is the second-year guy. And now he's playing it. If he ends up playing on the left side, he's at another new position. So you got to have the guy in the middle. He's the glue. He's going to keep them together. You only got 2 vets.
Right. Bush Hog wants to know, do you think on passing downs, Edmonds can move to the edge and sub someone in for him? You don't think so, huh?
No, he's not a pass rusher.
And they want him playing that center field kind of Urlacher position, right?
He did it a little bit, not very much in college. And he was used to blitz every once in a while for Buffalo, but never you look at his size and you say, he should be able to play the edge and rush the passer. No, it's not part of their skill set. In fact, go back to Brian Urlacher. He's in the Hall of Fame. Don't want to know the worst thing he did? Rush the passer. That was the worst part of his game because people would get into his legs and they knew it. And then he just, that was the most difficult thing for him to overcome. Yeah, of course he got some sacks on some blitzes and stuff, but when you hit him and you hit him low, he was out of the play. But in coverage, he was outstanding. And part of that was he was a safety. And Edmonds is the same way.
Yeah.
They're very, they got very, very similar traits. I think he can probably rush the passer better than Brian could, but he's not a guy you can use to be an edge. And then people were saying Sewell. Well, we can put Sewell down as a defensive end or an edge guy. He didn't do it at Oregon. He's got 31-inch arms.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
I keep going back to the simple things. They tell you over and over, size, speed, length.
Yep.
And how many times do they say length? So when you see somebody's got 31.5-inch arms playing that position, he does not have the length to play on the edge.
Exactly. Yep. You said it so much, you've drilled it into me, and I keep mentioning it to my wife. Honey, length I better not go there. Anyway, BG147 wants to know something off topic here. Greg, do you recall any red flags with Alex Brown? BG expected him to be taken higher than the 4th round, and I recall some hush-hush talk about off-the-field character issues or stuff. Do you recall anything about that with Alex?
Yeah, Alex would come into my office about once a month, knocking on the door. Will you explain to me why the fuck I lasted until the 4th round? And this would be 4 years into the league. And I'd always say this thing. I'd start laughing, and of course he would, because by this time he's just busting my balls. And he'd just say, Alex, we're the people who took you. We're the ones who we had the love affair. Why are you asking me? There's 31 other teams out there to ask. But I do know for a fact that the Giants were trying to trade up, and they called us to trade up for that pick just to take him. So he was going in the 4th round.
Yeah, great question.
But he had some inconsistent play in college his last year, and his speed was like 4.8.
Okay,
but he played 4.65.
Yeah. Okay.
And he was 248 pounds coming out. So size wasn't great for a defensive end, but he was fired up when he got here. That's for damn sure. He wanted to, he played with a chip on his shoulder, and he wanted to prove people wrong, and he did. He had a great career.
He did. He was one of our favorites. Couple of fun questions here. Laz is asking, you already got the golf clubs out. You're going to hit the links this weekend, Greg?
No, not. I haven't swung a club since October, so I'll get to it, but it's not going to be this week.
It's going to be like 75 degrees or higher than that. And
well,
then
it's about
finally,
time. Christ, it's been winter the last week.
I know, right? That's crazy Chicago weather. And then
How about
finally,
this? Monday I get up early to go to the gym.
Huh?
And there, I got up real early on Monday to go to the gym. It was like 5 o'clock. I was in the car going over, and there was a mix of snow and rain. And I'm going, it's freaking April or May 1st here. What's this rain shit?
Yeah, you tweeted that out. I saw that tweet.
Know.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Our buddy Frank noticed that you removed the 3 voodoo dolls and put up 2 Bears helmets, and he's applauding.
Well, I had the one helmet there. I put another one there, and I got a Giants helmet downstairs. I should bring. I was thinking about going downstairs and get the Giants helmet and bring it up. The voodoo dolls are right here. I got one right over here. There it is.
Oh my goodness, I think it's creepy.
I know they are, but what's funny is when I was doing the thing on WGN with Jared Payton, Jared said the same thing. What the hell are those things? And I said, Jared, you're going to have to talk to my wife about that, and she'll kick your ass.
I love it. I love it. All right, everybody. We're going to pull the plug on this episode of GTF, Gabriel Talks Football. And I want everybody on their way out the door, on your way out the barroom, hit the like button, leave a comment, let people know about this great show. And Greg and I are going to talk about what we'll be doing in the offseason and upcoming season. So I'm not quite sure when we'll be back. Maybe next week, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. But we'll be talking about it, and we'll get something done and let everybody know. That sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
By the way, I gotta share this one with Greg.
Oh, you got a question there already.
No, Greg stole the doll from Tales from the Hood.
No. My wife got it. There's 3 of them. There's not one. There's 3.
Yeah, that's right.
But my neighbor's comment was the best because he lives in Vegas now, but he lived 4 doors down for 13 years and has been in this house a gazillion times, and he had never noticed them, and they've been sitting there for years.
Oh my goodness! Okay.
Never noticed them, and so he watches the show a lot. And if he's watching tonight, hi Todd, how you doing? And so he sends me a screenshot, and he does a close up on the dolls, and he goes, what, WTF are those? How many times have you been in this house?
That's hilarious.
Now my wife starts laughing about it because I tell her how many comments people, because they are kind of freaky. But my wife's in retail, high-end retail fashion, and so that stuff. She likes that stuff. And you've been in my house. I mean, she decorated it, not me. She's done a good job.
She's got beautiful taste, outstanding taste. They remind me a lot of my grandmother. She was involved for a number of years. She was involved in this cultish Christian religion called Santeria, which is really a lot of voodoo stuff. And she would have all these really spooky looking religious dolls. So when I would see your 3 dolls over your shoulder, it reminded me of those weird episodes over at my grandmother's house.
My stepson and his partner, they just bought a house. They've been living in apartments in the Miami area for he's been down there about 10 years now. And he's been living with Pammy for probably 6-7 years. And they could never find a house. And every time he found a house, there was just something wrong, and he didn't want to pay that much. I mean, it's just a nice story, because they started looking up north of Miami, and they found some houses that actually same as built this house, a Toll Brothers community, and the house was going to cost, like, with what they wanted, about 1.2 million. So I go, I'm not going to spend that. That's crazy. Yada yada yada. So for years they're looking for a house, and they put offers in on houses and couldn't get them. Still live in an apartment. And let me tell you something. Rental places down there are way up here. I mean, they were spending $6,000 a month on rent.
Holy cow!
So. And I'm not lying now. They moved out of one place because they were going to raise the rent to $7,500. So they moved out of that and moved to a place a little further south, near Coral Gables, where the University of Miami is. So they finally find a house. And they put an offer in. It went on the market like on one day. They had it. They bought it the next day, and it cost them north of $2 million. Oh, but anyway, my wife now is doing the decorating of that house.
Oh, cool.
But it's so different, because that is an ultra modern Miami house. It's only like 2,800 square feet. But it's got a lanai and a pool and all that. So there's a lot of outdoor space. But she's gonna have a ball with that, because this house is very traditional. That house is gonna be the total opposite from traditional.
That'll be a great project for her. We'll have to have you guys over, because my wife wants to start doing some redecorating here, so we could use some professional guidance. All right, Greg, another great show. The reviews are in 4 or 5 stars, thumbs up. So we will talk to you soon. Make sure you follow us at Barroom Network, and follow Greg at GGABE Football, and subscribe to the Barroom Network here on YouTube to get all your alerts when we are live. Until next time, we will see you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you later. Thank you.